Joining me right now with what to expect is Wyoming Senator John Barrasso. And Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you. I want to ask you your thoughts on the budget, on what you're expecting. But first, give me your reaction to what you just heard from the Klitschko brothers on the ground in Kyiv. They are still disappointed with the U.S. and NATO partners' response to the Russian attacks on Ukraine.
Ukraine can win. We just need to give them the tools they need to finish the job. I know the brothers. I've been with them in Ukraine. The people are putting on a heroic fight. Look, Vladimir Putin underestimated the will and the fighting capacity of the people of Ukraine, and he overestimated his own troops. Regrettably, Joe Biden made the same mistake. We need to get them everything they need. We have a bipartisan group in the Senate, in the House, that are trying to light a fire under the Biden administration to say, move faster, give them what they need. If they know how in Ukraine to fly it, to fire it, anything, whether it's drones, MiGs, defense systems to shoot down what Russia is trying to shoot in toward Ukraine, give it to them now, get moving.
Well, I mean, the main message of those brothers was stop trading with Russia, that this war will go on as long as the world continues to trade with Russia. Now, the last check is Russia still in the SWIFT system when dealing with oil and gas transactions. There is still oil being bought from Russia. I mean, when is this going to end? Is there any vision that the administration can lay out where we will actually see Russia take a hit and stop the bloodshed?
Russia is still getting about $5 to $7 billion a week on Russian energy. And Maria, we in the United States are still buying uranium from Russia. I have a bill to stop that. We need to stop the whole thing. The sanctions so far have hurt Russia, but they've not been crippling. We need to go further. There are ways to do it, and you have to shut down Russia's sale of energy to places around the world.
Let me move on to the budget and get your expectations. Let's talk about defense in a new world where even President Biden last week said that there's a new world order. Are we looking at higher defense spending? Are we looking at higher spending on protecting the homeland? What are you expecting from Biden's budget tomorrow?
Well, I'm expecting a Joe Biden budget that is still living in the past, as the president is on these issues. I expect the budget that we're going to see is going to be more debt on arrival, and it is going to be dead on arrival. Remember, last year he came out with a budget that was a pipe dream of liberal activism and climate extremism. And as you pointed out, last year's budget didn't even keep up with inflation on homeland security or on defense. We've been living for a year with tax and spending Democrat policies, and that's why we now have 40% of a 40-year high in inflation in this country. Things need to change. I expect a budget, though, that's going to be more reflective of the old liberal songbook than it is of the needs of America in terms of energy security and economic security, because those two are national security.
So no pivot is what you're expecting. Senator, we've got to drill down on this further. Let's take a short break and then go specifically into what kind of spending you're expecting and where those higher taxes will be allocated in this climate change agenda. I'm talking with Senator John Barrasso, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back, and I am back with Wyoming Senator John Barrasso. And Senator, you just mentioned the uranium bill that you introduced last week. Why are we still buying uranium from Russia?
Well, we shouldn't be. Vladimir Putin uses energy as a weapon, and he has undermined the markets around the world for uranium. So he controls so much of the world uranium because of the prices. We have an abundance of uranium in the United States. We need to use it. In Wyoming, we have a great amount of it. Nuclear power is an important part of our electric grid. About 20% of the energy we have here is from nuclear power. It is carbon-free energy. We need to immediately cut off the importation of uranium from Russia. That cuts off their money. We cannot be dependent, Maria, on anybody. We need to get more self-sufficient as a nation, whether it's uranium from Russia, whether it's critical minerals and medicines from China, whether it's OPEC. We cannot let them hold a knife to our throat. We need to be self-sufficient. It's so critical for our own national safety and security and our future.
And of course, the shortage of so many supplies has sent inflation spiking, oil prices spiking. President Biden keeps blaming Vladimir Putin for the increase in gasoline prices as we see the numbers near record highs this morning. I want to show you a timeline that we have put together in terms of inflation. The inflation timeline begins back in January 2021 when Joe Biden first took office. The inflation rate was at 1.4%. It's at 7.9% right now. And of course, in March of 2021, the inflation rate spiked to 2.6% when Biden signed the $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill into law. And then by July of 2021, the Democrats were proposing even more spending. They wanted a bill that many say was actually $5 trillion. They said it was $3.9 trillion budget plan. And that sent the inflation rate up to 5.4%. And then you fast forward to November of 2021 when Biden signed in the $1 trillion infrastructure package and the inflation rate was at 6.8%. And so, yes, the war in Ukraine added to it, taking the inflation rate up to 7.9%. But we know that inflation was bubbling up throughout Biden's presidency and throughout his first year in office. What is the answer to getting this inflation off of the table for American families who are spending all of their disposable income on much needed goods?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is a Republican Senate and a Republican House to stop this reckless spending by this administration. Joe Biden cannot hide from the fact that he is the president of high gas prices. When he came into office, gas was affordable and we were energy independent. And fast forward 14 months, as you just showed, we are now dependent on foreign sources of energy. And if you want to fill up your tank, you end up having to empty your wallet. These are the Biden policies that have done this. And the Democrats' answer is send checks out. If energy prices are more than $4 a gallon, send people money. The answer, that's going to make inflation worse. And we're at a 40-year high. The answer is, and 70% of the Americans see this, it's more oil and gas development in this country and less focus on this climate extreme agenda. We have the energy in the ground here. We need to get it out. The president needs to announce that we're going to produce more. We're going to help our European allies. Europe gets it. Europe sees the fact that they made a terrible mistake with becoming dependent on their enemies for energy. Biden is sleepwalking. He's continuing to march to the tune of the liberal elites on this. We saw it again over the weekend. We need to be more independent of any sources. We need to be self-sufficient energy-wise. We have it. We got to get it out of the ground. And it's the policies of this administration that have been stopping us.
Well, some of the answers by some of your colleagues in the Senate are including more money sent to people, right? You've got a handful of senators who are up for re-election who say, well, the answer to help American families is to send them checks, right?
Well, that's right. You have some of these folks who are worried about their re-election, and they should be worried because their policies have really hurt American families. People are feeling the stranglehold around their quality of life. They can't keep up. And people believe that this administration and the Democrats really are out of step, and they don't like it. They think Joe Biden isn't up to speed on where we ought to be. The policies are wrong. We have American energy. We need to use it. There are things we can do to get inflation under control. It's stop the reckless spending. It's stopping the policy of this administration, and it's using the resources we have, and that's more American energy.
Yeah. Real quick, Senator, before you go, will you be voting for Ketanji Brown Jackson? Do you think she gets through on the Supreme Court?
I'm a no vote on her. Look, Joe Biden had an opportunity to put forth a mainstream nominee. Instead, he once again listened to the voices of the liberal left, as he does with so many of his appointees. Remember, Chuck Schumer said she would rule based on empathy. That's not what a judge is supposed to do. They're supposed to rule based on the law. I'm a no vote.
Senator, thank you for joining us. Senator John